Welcome back, everybody, to Catapult Your Business, where we help grow businesses one question at a time. I've got a really cool guest with me today. She actually runs an extremely talented marketing and communication agency. Excited to share you her story in just a moment and talk a little bit about what she's up to. But before I do, let me share the question we're going to talk about today. We're going to focus in on how do you prioritize the time to work on your business. We all know how this feels. As business owners, we are constantly wanting to work for our clients. We are constantly wanting to work for our teams. How do we actually slow down and connect the dots properly to where we can get the time for ourselves and for our own business? And that's often one of the biggest gaps that holds us back from being able to get that business to the next level. So we're going to talk about that and so much more as always, so stay tuned. But before I do, let me introduce our special guest. Candice, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're glad to have you out of Chicago. I know you've got a fantastic marketing communication agency here called CS Effect. I definitely encourage everyone to go check out CS Effect. But you've got kind of a big celebration going on this year. This is your 20th anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we're taking the time now to reflect on that and to celebrate. And we will be celebrating with all of our community, our clients, very soon. It's been quite an amazing journey, and to have built a strategic communications agency and the diverse portfolio of clients that we now work with that are that really we find to be very valuable. And
yeah, they are valuable. I mean, I think what's really great, though, honestly, is that 20 years that's a long consistency. I mean, to be able to go that long, that's consistent. I think any entrepreneur listening in who's ran their own business knows 20 years is a long time to be at it. And what's really great is even in the last year and a half, you've really started to pick up some steam and get some growth. And I know you're continuing that journey. So kudos to you for you and your team and what you've accomplished. That's not a small feat. And I think a lot of people are wanting to have their business go 20 years and be as consistent as yours has. So kudos to you and your team for having that level of consistency. And that just speaks to the quality of output you must have to be able to keep that coming back. Do you mind telling the audience just a little bit that might be listening in, just so they have a better understanding, like what is CS Effect? Like what makes your agency kind of unique? What's your differentiator of what you do on a daily basis?
Yep. So we work with our clients to develop strategies, communication strategies that help them change behavior, drive growth, elevate awareness, enhance their reputation. And we work across many industries, so ranging from national healthcare associations to mid-sized businesses, not-for-profits, and even government agencies.
Got it. Love it. So ultimately, really, if somebody wants to increase reputation, bring more brand awareness, kind of elevate their brand generally, you're the right person to call.
That's right. And I would say one of the things that sets us apart is that we are all senior level communicators.
Yeah.
So we don't have, and that's what is one of our differentiators. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, the talent we keep and our skill level can absolutely make a difference in the output. So that makes a ton of sense. Well, and I kind of agreed on this question, right? And first off, let me just share with everybody, you're one of the talented clients and one of the members here of the Cultivate community. So thank you, by the way, for letting our company, join you on your journey and be a part of that. And I know I speak on behalf of Angie that she loves working with you and loves seeing what you're doing. So just thank you for that as well. But you've got this question that you brought. You said, hey, I got to get more time on my business. I think you worded it perfectly. You're like, I've got to figure out how to treat me and my own business as my own client. I mean, I literally help other brands grow and scale all day. If I want to get to that next level, not that you haven't already grown and scaled to a really established level, but if you want to get to that next chapter, you're going to have to prioritize more time on the business. What has you thinking about this? Like, what has you kind of processing through this right now?
Well, I think, we've seen a tremendous growth over the last couple of years, and I now realize that we want to take it to the next level, the company to the next level, and we want to do even better over the next 20 years. And I know that in order to do that, I am going to have to make some changes. Yeah. And it's a matter of figuring out how to do that, right? It's a matter of getting out from in the business to spending more time on new business, marketing for our own company. And I know that there's a balance of being able to spend time still working in the company
Yep,
and
absolutely.
allowing yourself to get out, because I want to maintain the same level of quality and customer service that has gotten us to this point.
Well, let me jump in right there, because that's already a really great spot for us to jump. And for everybody listening in, one of the things that I strongly encourage, and I've seen a lot of people make this transition, this is not a black and white transition. This is a very gray transition. And that's what makes it so challenging, right? So I agree with you, just, Candice, like I agree that you don't just black and white, just cut the rug, jump over and go, okay, now I work on the business. I don't do anything in it, right? Because the problem with that, as you know, is that you're gonna put this shock into the business. Your customer experience is going to change. You have to, very at the right pace, move in this gray environment and figure out what's the right balancing act, when and where. And so the first thing I can share with you out of the gates that I know I would be thinking about if this is the strategy is really figuring out what percentage of my time is going to go on versus in. And I would actually lay out like a 2-year plan of going, my goal is in 2 years, maybe I'm fully out. Maybe I truly am 100% working on the business by 2 years or by 3 years. That's generally what I see it take an owner, if that helps, just in a rule of thumb, to get from this place where it's you really involved with your team to I actually can sit on the business with my team running the day to day. And that's a fantastic transition that you're going to love. But if you do it too quickly, it won't happen. Right?
Okay.
So timing is actually going to be everything. So I would say no more than 15 to 20% is what you actually need to pull out over like the next 6 months. Because you have to get good at that. That's a skill in itself. Then you can go to the next level of maybe 40 or 50%. Then you can, so tranche it out is what I'm trying to say. That's my first biggest piece of advice I can share with you. But let's talk about how to actually get there and why that's even important. Now, you obviously know how to elevate and increase growth and drive more marketing. I mean, you do it on a daily basis for your clients, right? So this is a bit more of even a fun, more conversation for us to have, because a lot of times like, well, what do I go do? What do I go spend my time on? I think you know what you need to go spend your time on. It's actually the prioritization that's the hard part. What is it for you that you mentioned, like, I know there's some things I have to change. What is it for you that's more difficult?
Yeah, I think it is. We have very talented people that I trust tremendously. It's not a trust issue. It's more of one factor is that I still like to do
Yeah,
client work.
I
I
totally
enjoy that. And I enjoy working with my clients and helping to develop strategies for them. And so part of it is just liking to do that work, right? And then part of it is just the figuring out where I may know what to do in terms of driving growth and new business. It's prioritizing that and focusing, taking the time, like you said, to really dedicate that time to, developing marketing campaigns for us and not for our clients.
And with your clients that you're working with, how do you manage your calendar right now? Is it like on a project management software? Is it like a queue? Like every agency kind of runs different structure, but how do you pick where time goes right now? I'm just curious, because we'll try to connect that back to actually getting the work on the business, infused into that.
Sure. We do use Asana.
Sure. Yeah. So it's more of a project management approach.
Sure. For many of our clients. And then a lot of our work is, like most, I would assume, companies, is deadline driven,
Sure.
right? By the deadlines that our clients have for the work that we're doing, right? Some of it's very intense deadlines, we're driven by, the media, right? We need to get a client that's on the news at this time and prepare them. And
right.
So it's an ongoing challenge of prioritizing and deadlines and for all of our clients.
I wonder if there is an opportunity here, Candice. I don't know if you've thought about this, but because of the nature of your business, I actually wonder if you could even go to one of your team members and have them actually represent your company and allocate the amount of time and actually and you can actually use that as an opportunity to see how they performed for you, for the brand, right? And allow that to drive. So if you really love the customer experience and you like to be a part of that and additional oversight, you also, not every owner has to build this by doing it themselves, right? Oftentimes we can use a team. So keep that. That's one option. You've probably thought of that.
And actually, I do. I
Okay.
have a partner in the company who has been working with me for almost nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
She came on board shortly after
Sure.
I founded the company, and she is also involved in new business and marketing initiatives.
Well, if you take more space away from her working on clients or him working on clients, or I'm not sure which one it is, but
Yeah.
take them away, what you can do is you can actually slowly keep adding more and more time into their world. But what it will require is you probably to set up the same cadence you have with your clients, right?
Mhm.
You actually having an ongoing touch point, if it's the monthly or every other week cadence. What are the goals? What are the expectations? You get entered into a sauna. You get in the exact same framework. I know that's what I would probably do.
Are you getting the advice you need for your business from this episode? Do you want to get more than just one question answered and have it customized to you and your business? Well, Cultivate Advisors works one-on-one with thousands of business owners every day. Let them help you scale your business today. Don't just listen to this episode. Take action and go to cultivateadvisors.com to see which advisor you get matched with and receive a free 2-hour business assessment on how you could scale your business to the next level. Act now at cultivateadvisors.com.
But for everybody else listening in, I'm going to give you a couple other advice too, because most people don't have the ability, because they're not a marketing agency necessarily, to help drive and, and fuel the growth. And so one of the things that I'm just curious about is, do you do any time blocking in your calendar? Have you heard of that phrasing before?
Yes, because we are working with Cultivate.
Okay, so you've heard it. Angie talked about it.
Yes, Angie has definitely shared that strategy with us, and I think it's brilliant. I have to admit that I could do much better at it. I
haven't stuck to
started
it yet.
But yes, she has shared that with us, and I completely see the value in doing that.
Well, so for everybody listening, in case they haven't heard of it, time blocking it's really simple concept. It's just the idea of no different than you block a calendar invite to go to a meeting, no different than blocking a 2 or 3 hour task in your calendar. And what I really push on is to-do lists are not a good way to run a business, because on a to-do list, you don't measure time. A calendar measures time. So when you identify what you want to work on and prioritize it, when you actually block out the tasks and overestimate what you think the time will take, you're not stressed out, you're not running around ragged, and more importantly, you actually know when it's time to say NO, right? We know KNOW, when to say NO, no. And I think as owners, we struggle with that. And so for you, the biggest thing I found where owners struggle to move more on the business is they actually just don't know when to say NO to taking on the client work. That's actually the root, because they haven't committed to the time blocking. So one of the things you can do is even just have an ongoing, like one of the things I do is every Friday, I have an hour where all I do is plan out the next week. And I go in the same priority, 3 steps every single week. Never changes. It's like clockwork. Number 1, what do I have to do for the business to hit its goals? That goes in the calendar first. And I will problem solve if I don't have time to get to the client work, if that's where I'm at in the business phase. Number 2, what do I have to do to make the team in my company successful? What do I have to do to help the team members in my company achieve their goals by the end of the week in terms of all the tasks that they're going to do? And then number 3, where am I going to spend my time with clientele? Okay. Right? Now, my third priority has shifted a little bit, because this is actually the only interaction I get with any of my clients, right, that are part of Cultivate. But when I was in the phase in a similar stage as you, that was those 3 elements. And I know it's simple. This isn't rocket science. I realize that. But it was a complete game changer and such a simple just behavior to implement. And I never broke from it. And by doing that, you'll find you can start to go, okay, it's 10 hours on the business. Okay. 6 months from now, it's 15 hours on the business. Okay, now it's 20 hours on the business. And you will actually naturally build more and more confidence of stepping away and I'm not going to say give up your baby because that's not what you're doing, but just get into a new pattern and a new behavior. As you know, right? That is very difficult to do.
Yes, it is.
And so I don't know if that's something that's very tangible that you feel like you could jump on, but I would strongly encourage you to think about that. And if that doesn't work, the other way I've seen a lot of people approach it is do it in larger batches. So instead, just take a whole week like you were leaving the business and go work on the business and then come back for 3 weeks and do normal.
Mhm.
And that can also be a great way to transition if that's where the struggle is.
Yeah. I think for us that that the first approach you mentioned works the best, because
Yeah.
it still allows for some of, working with doing some client work in that same time period as you're also working on the business.
Yep.
You're working to make sure that your team has what they need to be successful. Because the way our business works is that, we could have a client, we could be spending time on a new business, and I have a client calling me and saying, I have a crisis.
Yeah.
And then that's the new business drops, right?
It takes the priority, right?
Exactly. And so I find that is something I struggle with, is that constant reprioritization of
Yeah.
work.
When you have the blocks on the calendar, though, right? It just to keep going down this theme. When you have the blocks on the calendar, it allows you to shift the blocks, right? Versus if you operate off the to-do list or you operate off the head list or whatever other structure that's out there, right? You lose this massive inefficiency is what I've found, right? And so, because like what makes business owners worth more? What makes business owners' ability to scale their businesses larger and larger? It's actually just efficiency. It's actually just their ability to move at a quicker pace. Oh, and so what I think a lot about is like, it's just Tetris. It's like, okay, you're right. In the communication space, especially, right? Your industry, emergencies do pop up and you're expected to drop what you're doing for those clients and help figure out the language and the communication that's going to, follow because of it. When that happens, you might have to drop what you're doing if you're the account manager, or the leading communication, architect or expert that's working with this individual. So you're going to need to be able to move those blocks around quickly. What happens though is that when you're on their to-do list, you get wiped, then you just come back and start going back down the to-do list. You don't actually prioritize and go, well, I can move this to next week in my block. And then when you get to that Friday, go, I know I have to make up those 7 hours. So even for me right now, I've got a super busy week this week and I got a little behind. I had a few things come up I didn't plan. Well, I'm looking at my calendar right now on my screen. I got like 4 hours of work that I've just kept dragging and it's just sitting at the end of the day. I'm not going to get it done. When I get done with this and 1 or 2 more tasks before I take off for the day, I'm going to shoot out an email, right, to those individuals or whoever's all the stakeholders that are affected by those tasks not being done. And I'm going to have them plan though, because I'm going to do my Friday planning in a few hours here for the following week, right? And I will reincorporate it back in. And I think that's why that blocking has to happen, because that's the only way to truly see Tetris.
Yeah, I see that.
But you do have to commit to it. Because if you don't actually do it, it doesn't work.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. So, I'm all in.
I've got one other tip on the calendar, and I want to move to something completely different that you may not even be thinking about that helps get you more on the business. Batching in your calendar, I think, is really important. So what I'm referencing is whenever you do a different type of task and you start and you stop, what happens is you lose massive efficiency. People underestimate how much time we spend to transition, to get our heads wrapped around, especially in your world where you're requiring so much creativity and strategic processing. Boy, you're going to lose a lot of time up and down, getting into the project and getting out of the project. This probably isn't new to you. You live it every day. So again, for everybody listening in and for yourself, just remember, when you do start to allocate your calendar with the priorities, do your best to still batch it. Take a good 4 to 5 hours at a time to work on the business. Then don't try to do an hour task for the business and then an hour task for a client, an hour task for the business and an hour task for the employees. Batch them together in different categories because what you will find is that you will get that much more work done and be that much more productive. And turn off your email.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the one she heard. She's like, yeah, I need to do that. Turn off the notifications, turn off the email, and work on the business. And make sure your team and your clients know if you have an emergency, use this device and I will pick up if I see it. But also communicate, hey, I'm out right now. I'm working on the business. Have an open communication line of when that's happening so they know not to come to you unless. That's the other part, is communicating with your team, communicating with the few clients you still serve in addition to who your team is serving. And again, these are all just little best practices, little nuances that will make a massive difference to get you into a completely different chain of behavior.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that especially being valuable for what we do, because again, it's so important to keep that time to focus, like you're saying, rather than, okay, here, a client's emailing me, I got to respond right now. And wait, I'm writing this, piece of content, a blog post for a client. Yeah, so I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I think again, and it all comes down to goal orientation, right? You said it best. You said, hey, we work on project management and deadline. Like you added deadline. Now, you came up with that, right? So that's the culture of your business. And a lot of people listening in probably have very similar, in all different industries. And what I can't, express more is that if you don't come up with your own goals and your own deadlines for your business and have them clearly defined for yourself, because you'll do a great job of that every time for your client, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we do it? Why can't we do it for ourselves? It's just harder. And so make sure you do have time to identify those goals and put those front and center. And that's what you're prioritizing against. Don't just blindly say, I'm going to put 6 hours in on the business. You might not need to. You might be able to hit your goals that week with only putting 2 hours in on the business. But the next week you might need 20. Yep. Because you're so far behind on something, or you need to get back caught up with that deadline. So again, be gray. Don't be black and white around this. I find people who just try to go black and white, unless you have a ton of money to bring a bunch of talent on right now to replace everything you're doing, it's almost impossible to make 100% jump from in to on. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's why so many business owners get stuck at different levels, right? You've had a bunch of growth, but you're still maybe stuck or not quite sure how to now navigate that next level. And it's just because you need more time to work on it.
Exactly. I think that's helpful. I think the time is a big factor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for tuning in to Catapult Your Business, where Cultivate Advisors is helping you catapult your business one question at a time. Are you running your business, or is your business running you? At Cultivate Advisors, they'll match you with an expert advisor and do a free 2-hour deep dive for your business. This will give you the clarity you need on how to get your business to the next level. Cultivate has worked with thousands of businesses. What do you have to lose? So head over to cultivateadvisors.com and sign up for your free 2-hour session.
Help me understand this, though. I'm going to take you a different route. What are the guardrails that you have that are not you that make sure the quality output is strong, right? Like if you think about you're spending this much amount of time on a client, is there a way to spend this much by creating some new process, new system, or new guardrail? Have you thought at all about that?
That's a good question. In some ways, as I am trying to move, spend more time on the business, I've looked at what can we do to keep the same quality and customer service, maintain that, whether it's delegating more is one way I've been doing it. Really looking at, okay, who can take on more, right?
Capacity play.
Yes, I think another is that just working smarter, right? So there are things that maybe we can do more efficiently. One thing that I think we struggle with is the hiring, right? When is the right time to hire? As we grow, we look at our team and think, okay, well, we could bring on another person. I've always been somewhat conservative in that way because I've never wanted to bring on people that maybe I would have to let go at one point because we were losing client or something were to happen.
Yeah. Well, there's two things that really stand out when I hear you say this. One is, I personally, if you have any open capacity with your current team, you shouldn't be touching a client.
Yeah.
Here's a different way to think about it. You can share a client. You can be involved in the client because it's a part of skilling your team up and being involved because you want to get to a certain level of result. But you should never, ever have open capacity on your team. The only time you should be working with a client is because your other team is completely at capacity. And if you do that, that now creates your trigger to know that we're in pursuit of potentially needing to bring somebody else in. You also can get really creative to bring people in on a part-time basis to start, setting a probationary period, allowing the business to prove out that you're able to, consistently achieve enough business. And again, you share accounts with the new person, so you have more of a handhold with the new people coming in for a period of time. So I see a lot of owners in a professional service space do this very well, because what they realize is, like, I need to instill my talent to let them drive everything with these accounts. I'll come to the checkpoints here in a minute, but I need to make sure that they're driving that. And then I will take any overage of capacity. And when I take that overage, that's what tells me I need to start to go back to recruiting again, right?
Yeah.
And then I share the client for as long as I need to until I see that the person is at a competent level, the same level, not the same, but maybe 90%, 85% as well as you will. You'll never get everybody the same level as you. That's just part of the dilution of scale. But that will now be a really easy trigger versus you having this, what seems like kind of subjective approach.
Yes.
It turns a little bit more objective because you, in your mind, just make a rule. I'm not allowed to go over 15 hours of client work. So I take on a week. I take on up to 15 hours of client work, trigger, hire, share, offload. Okay, now that person slowly fills back up. Okay, now I have more clients coming up for 15 hours. Okay, share, hire. It just keeps recycling. And now you have a really simple system that you can also communicate with your team that's easy and it doesn't break, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then on your checkpoint system, again, just for everybody listening in, there's probably times in the client journey where you need to have the checks until you get an executive in place. And what I would encourage you to think about is just, what are those checkpoints? You probably know those. You don't have to share those because I don't want to give anything away in the industry. But what I think is really important is that you identify what those are and you systematize it. And what I mean by that is you should have a set time. Maybe it's twice a week, maybe it's 3 times a week, where if somebody has got their client to that point of a check, maybe it's a press release or whatever it is that needs to go out, that's going through. So I'll give you an example of what I've seen people do in the professional service space. I'm going to steal this from law firms. A lot of a lot of partners that are managing a small group in a law firm will have at the end of their day an hour and a half that's blocked out on Zoom, office hours, where they come in and get anything approved to push out for the end of the day. Everything funnels into one set period of time. Game changer for you, only slightly painful for your team. Instead of that 11 a.m. approval, they have to wait till 4, but they can communicate it to the clients. And again, you can always have a rule for the emergency.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that resonates for you, but getting systems like that can shrink massively. I mean, it can take your 20 hours into 3, 4 very quickly by funneling and thinking about your leverage more than your employees.
Yeah. No, I love that. I actually, I've never heard of that. I think that's very interesting, because what will happen is, somebody will send me a news release. So please approve this. So can you take a look at this document? So I have them all in an email, right? Knowing that I need to get to it. And sometimes I'll just be looking at them throughout the day. But if I were to just block off that time at the end of the day, just say, this is my time. I'm going to review all work that needs to be approved. And I can tell my team, my colleague, that, hey, you know what? I'm going to look at that at the end, at this time at 4:00. I'm going to take a look at that and I'll get back to you by the end of the day.
I think you got a really good takeaway and aha right there.
I think so too.
Whoa, I can funnel. Yeah, and again, it's not rocket science. Everybody listening in, this is not rocket science. This is just, but what happens is, and kudos, Candice. I mean, your team has done amazing work for 20 years, but you definitely probably have some ways you're approaching things that could be sped up. And as we all do, we all have points of optimization. And, and I teach it and I still have points of optimization. I literally am giving you this advice and I only follow it 80 to 90% of the time. And I teach it almost every day, right? It is hard to stay with it because the distractions, the nonstop notifications all over, and especially in your world that can be a little bit more urgent based on the timing of communication. I get it. So again, even if you're like, the end of the day is not soon enough, great. Put an hour before lunch and an hour before the end of the day. And make sure your team knows this is a time for approvals. This is when I will reply back with approvals. And any other time I will not.
Yeah, I love it.
Simplify.
I think it's such a simple thing, but it sounds.
Yeah. And
it sounds like
I even tell clients, we do a lot of this at Cultivate. It's like we will build web forms specific for a task. So like any type of approval, we would never keep through email. We would turn on a simple web form where they have to upload everything you need, submit it. That way it feeds into a Google Sheet or Excel doc, and you just go in order of what it came. You check the box, tag the other person and say, this is done, or if it's via Asana, whatever you want to use. But we would get it all off email. So that way your email doesn't get decluttered. You don't feel like you're missing out. Because what happens is you get pulled back into email for projects, and then you get distracted by other things that hit your email, and then it just whirlwinds out. And you're not alone. You and 90% of other business owners are fighting this fight every day. Truly. And I definitely, it makes a difference. Candice, this was awesome. I think it's clear, right? Like there's these opportunities from what you've already, talked with Angie about from time blocking. We talked a little bit about time batching, but then we really just kind of slowed down and got in the weeds of like, how do you create a time system and a funneling system that actually creates a guardrail and leverages your time? I think we're so often think, we need to get better at delegation, but part of your secret sauce is that you probably have unbelievable strategy, creativity, and marketing oversight. So figure out ways to only spend the least amount of time on that by funneling everyone to you at the exact right moment. And I think that's where I'm really grabbing is like going to probably shift and open up space. And just remember for everybody listening in, as well as yourself, Candice, you don't go from 0 to 100. If you try to go from 0 to 100, you're going to fail. You've got to slowly ease in a gray environment to make this happen. Candice, you've got 20 years of unbelievable experience. I know you can help a ton of businesses. If somebody wanted to learn a little bit more about CS Effect and what you all are up to, because maybe they're in the market to find a communication expert or work with a marketing agency to really elevate their brand, how do they learn more about CS Effect? How do they reach out to you? What does that look like?
I'd say the easiest way is to check out our website. It's cs-effect.com.
Perfect. And if they reach out and engage, what's kind of the first step that you do to kind of figure out what the opportunity looks like?
The first step would be to schedule a phone call with you and to really walk through, well, what are your current communication challenges that you're facing? And we'll look at your audiences, what are your goals? What are the strategies that we need to get you there?
Perfect.
And we are offering Cultivate other clients the 1 hour complimentary communication session. So we're happy to do that. Awesome.
Well, I encourage anyone listening in that wants to get their communication and their marketing work out to the next level. This is a great brand to reach out to. We can vet for them. We've been working together now for about 18 months, and their team is doing some amazing things. So strongly encourage you to check out CS Effect. Candice, thanks for coming in and being introspective and putting your question, out into the ether, because I know there's a lot of other business owners that are listening and going, yes, I'm glad we talked about this. I needed to work through this. I need to think about this differently. And it's just always so much easier on a use case. So everybody that's listening in, keep going after your vision and your mission. Remember, it can be lonely at top when you're running a business, but usually if we want to make a change in the business, it normally starts with us as owners. So with that, we'll catch you next time as we catapult your business one question at a time. Keep making an impact, and we'll see everybody next week.